reasonable assumption, because they clearly had some sort of masoret in their family. They had a tradition of Brit Ben Habtarim, and that they were going to be slaves someplace. And they had this as a tradition in terms of what subjugation and redemption, the process that you need to go through. And they witnessed this with Lavan. They themselves witnessed it. Actually, if you read Joseph and His Brothers by Thomas Mann, anybody read that? Yeah? Who said that? Okay. So there, do you remember the scene where Thomas Mann writes about Yosef and the Achim? What? You remember the scene? What? It's been a long time. So the scene is he has the Achim dancing around the Ish Asher Beit Yosef before they find the Gaviyah, calling him Lava. Because the Achim, Thomas Mann also noticed it, right? That this is a reenactment of the story of Lava. Why does Yosef reenact the story of Lava? Yosef wants the Achim to believe that this is Yetziat Mitzrayim. Now, from our perspective, that might seem ridiculous. Of course it was Yetziat Mitzrayim. They had to be there for 400 years. But we know in the end it wasn't 400 years, and there's always a teretz afterwards, 400 years. From when? From the Tarim, from whatever it is. Right? Yosef wanted the Achim to believe that this was Yetziat Mitzrayim. Why did he want the Achim to believe this was Yetziat Mitzrayim? Yeah?
So they wouldn't be worried about the Abdutikam.
The what?
If they know that they're going to be Avdim or that their children will, now they won't worry about it anymore.
Right. In other words, if you want to get, and we don't know what the ultimate goal of Yosef was, because Yehuda surprised him. Okay? So we don't know what Yosef's plan was, actually, because he capitulated. I have a theory, but that's a different story. Okay? But we don't know what the plan was. Okay? But part of the plan, clearly, was to lull them into a situation where they felt very confident, where we've been here before, and write a script for them that he knew they would be familiar with. I think that when they were leaving Egypt, they were looking over their shoulder and half expecting someone to come chasing after them. And when the person came chasing after them, they already knew exactly how to behave. And they were so sure of themselves. It's as if, let's try to imagine this. Imagine Moshe Rabbeinu comes to Mitzrayim and tells us we're leaving, and there's Aseret Makot, and there's Korban Pesach, and we run away, and we're pursued in the desert, and we're at the shores of Yam Suf, and the Egyptian armies are closing in on us, and nothing happens. Where are you then? Where are you then? What? Up the creek. Worse than up the creek. In other words, if you're up the creek, maybe you have hope of finding the paddle. Okay? But in this case, after, before this attempted redemption, you at least had hope of a redemption. But once you get up all the energy that it takes to actually move the whole Am out of Mitzrayim, and after everything everybody's been through, if at that point there is no redemption, there's also no more hope of redemption. Right? Mashiach lo yavo v'gam lo yitkasher. Right? There's no more hope. There's no more hope of redemption. That's where Yosef wants the Achim to be. Now you understand what the kriya, what the rending of the clothes of the Achim is about. Because what does it mean if there's no redemption? What? It means there's no more Brit Ben Abtarim. There was a Brit Ben Abtarim, a Bachar Ken Yetzu B'Rechush Gadol. God promised them that they would be redeemed from all this. And now, that's what they're expecting. They're expecting to come out. This is the Rechush Gadol. They don't have a different perspective. They're in the story. This is the Rechush Gadol, and they're leaving Egypt, and somebody's pursuing them, and they're going to overcome this obstacle, but no. What would Paro have done to Bnei Israel? on the shores of Yam Suf. Either killed them, or more likely, Ein HaNezek Shaveh Otzar HaMelech, right? He would have schlepped them back to Egypt, right? Which is exactly what Yosef is doing to the Achim. He's dragging them back to Egypt. And this means that the Achim now are in a place where there's no more Brit Bein HaBetarim. Why in the world should there not be a Brit Bein HaBetarim? Because they sold Yosef. Where's Yosef? Yosef Hayab Mitzrayim. How can they think about separating from Egypt as the final Geulah, when the Geulah is about separation, if Yosef is in Mitzrayim? So at this point, Yosef is telling them, I'm still in Mitzrayim. You cannot begin to think about a Geulah, about Brit Bein HaBetarim, if Yosef is in Mitzrayim. And that, in fact, is the reaction of the Achim. When the Achim speak among themselves, what do they say? All this is happening to us because we sold Yosef. But now you understand in a much deeper way. It's not just a crime and punishment. There's the whole Brit Bein HaBetarim is contingent on, I forgot who said it, no one gets left behind. Mitzrayim cannot have within it any remnant of Bnei Yisrael and still talk about Geulah. Everyone comes out. If Yosef doesn't come out, then nobody comes out. Vahi b'shalach Paro et ha'am, v'lo nacham Elohim derech eretz Plishtim ki karovhu. Right? Where's Moshe? Like Charlton Heston leading the people out? Where's Moshe? Vayikach Moshe et atzmot Yosef imo. What comes around comes around. They weren't going to make the same mistake twice. This is why Moshe Rabbeinu did not entrust anyone else with this job. Because without Yosef, there is no redemption. No one gets left behind. And that's why at this point, where you would think Moshe is most needed, leading the people out, everyone's going, where's Moshe? Moshe is busy getting Atzmot Yosef. And that's why it's included here in the story. Because this is the kapara of Bnei Yisrael towards Yosef. That they cannot leave without Yosef. Now look at this. The Midrash here in Tehillim. Right? You know, there's a Midrash about, there's a big machloket. Who went first to Kriyat Yam Suf? Really, right? So the Gemara talks about Nachshon going first. Right? So there are different versions of the story. Either no one wanted to go and Nachshon went first, right? According to this version, this is maybe more complimentary. They all wanted to go. Right? More Israeli. Okay? Sham b'nei Yisrael tza'ir odeim, haya Rabbi Meir omer, b'sha'a she'amdu Yisrael al hayam, hayu shvatim notzchim ze et ze. When Jews stood at the shores of the sea, the shvatim were competing one with the other. Ze omer ani arei tchila, ze omer ani arei tchila. This one said, I'll go first, and one said, no, I'll go first. Kafatz shivto shel Binyamin v'yarad layam. Binyamin jumped in first. Shneimar sham Binyamin tza'ir rodeim. Right? Tza'ir rodeim means the young one ruled over them, but the drasha is al tekrei rodeim ela reid yam. So they went first. V'hayu sarei Yehuda rogmim otam. But it was the princes of Yehuda stoned them. Shneimar sarei Yehuda rigmatam. Lefichach zacha Binyamin v'naseh ushpizichan lakadosh baruch hu. Shneimar uvein k'teifav shachen. That's why Binyamin was zocheh to have the mikdash. Shevet Yehuda zacha lemelucha, and the tribe of Yehuda got the monarchy. Shneimar hayta Yehuda lekodsho. This is perfect parallel to the Midrash about the Achim and how they reacted when they found the Gavia by Binyamin, right? The same thing. Shehikuhu al kteifav. V'shata shchina al kteifav. Shneimar ben kteifav shechen. Why should Binyamin go first? They could have taken any shevet. Why did Chazal say Binyamin went first? Binyamin was the only shevet. Why did Bnei Yisrael go down to Mitzrayim? It was a Mechirat Yosef. Binyamin was the only shevet that had nothing to do with Mechirat Yosef. Yosef also had something to do with Mechirat Yosef. Okay? Yosef is not blameless in the story of Mechirat Yosef. It takes two to tango. Okay? Everybody who has children that fight know that. Okay? Binyamin was the only one that didn't have anything to do with Mechirat Yosef. So why did he wind up in Mitzrayim? Because he was born into the wrong family. Right? So when it comes time to leave, he's the first one out. I had nothing to do with this. I'm the first one out. So what's Yehuda doing here? Yehuda says, it's true, you're blameless, but I stood up for you in front of Yosef. I risked my Olam Hazeh and my Olam Haba to protect you. For that, I go first. It goes back to the story of Yosef and the Achim. The one who was willing to take the risks and imperil his both spiritual and physical life, he'll be the king. That's Yehuda. The one who is pure, totally blameless, that's where you build the Beit HaMikdash. Beit Tefav Shachen. The suffering that Binyamin had to endure unjustly because his brother sold his brother to slavery and he doesn't even remember what happened. Right? That's where the Mikdash gets built. But the one who stuck his neck out, he's the king. So again, we have the reenactment of the story of Kriyat Yamsuf, actually the pre-enactment, in a sense, by Yosef and the Achim. Why is this important? Because you can come to Kriyat Yamsuf in one of two mindsets. You can come to Kriyat Yamsuf the way the Achim faced the Ish Asher Beit Yosef. And you can say, this is exactly according to what we prophesied, and we understand everything that's happening, and we are going to be saved, because God is great, and this is the only thing that can happen. With an attitude like that, that's frum, right? There's no redemption with an attitude like that. In that scenario, the Gavia is uncovered, and you're schlepped back to Mitzrayim. That's what Bnei Yisrael endured with Achei Yosef. So it was vital that at the real Kriyat Yamsuf, we wouldn't be standing there in this self-assured way. Well, we knew that this is the date, and this is Eser Makot, and this is exactly the way Moshe said, and now with the Egypt, we're going to all watch when the Egyptians drown. They had to stand at the shores of Yamsuf and remember that anything could happen at this point, that we've been here already, and we were schlepped back to Mitzrayim once, and it could happen again. And that's why they cry out in terror. You can only cry out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu if anything can happen. The bitachon here is not for sure there's going to be a geula. The bitachon here is that we're in God's hands. That's the bitachon. But we don't know what's going to happen. And it's only from that place of terror and not being sure of yourself. That, are we sure that we merit this? Do we have Atzmot Yosef? Thank goodness Moshe Rabbeinu is getting Atzmot Yosef. Now, that's good. So now maybe we have a chance. So it's precisely because they've been through it once where it didn't work, so that the second time, the memory of the first time, the second time it does work. Because nothing is taken for granted. If nothing is taken for granted, then you can be Zocha the Geula.